I'm sure people would have told a lot about teams needing to have focus, consistency, collaboration. These are all fine words uh, and good to hear, but no one exactly tells you how to fix them and hence how to create teams, keeping in mind that these also are the factors which one would lack and hence cause in not exactly the right amount of performance that one is expecting out of it. I often tell business heads and CXOs that look, there's a difference between a horse and a donkey. And no offense, you have to understand that if you need someone to carry weight, then it's okay with, you can do better with donkeys. But if you need to run fast, then you need horses, then you can't have donkeys. So the first core of the problem is itself in the team composition. How you compose the team will determine what kind of outcome you'll get out of it. And that is where everything starts. Hello and welcome to this discussion on team dynamics. The other day I actually happened to be at a university talking about it, and one of the requests was, of course, to complete the discussion or at least explain the dynamics part in greater detail. As you know, there's always paucity of time in a session-led approach. So both for them and also for you, I felt let me contribute my understanding to this piece. So look, to begin understanding teams, we have to understand that while there are individuals in the teams, the role of these individuals are to perform their own individual tasks, right? Now, when multiple individuals, based on the task allocated to them, when they collaborate, they end up developing more trust among themselves, which means that a person gets to know how the other person actually performs, what is their level of skill, what is their level of competence, and hence they start beginning to trust each other, and that makes the process much more efficient. And every teamwork is basically a process work or basically a project work. So hence, if we look at it from this perspective, what we'll notice as important is basically the outcome. See, finally, whatever we are doing, if the outcome comes up to the standard that we are expecting, it's great. It's exactly what we want. So in outcomes, I believe in team outcomes, there are three factors. One is, of course, size, and then there's skill, and then there's scale. So let's understand these three parts. So when you're starting to develop or bring together people into a team or be a part of a team, one of the first questions you should ask or you should be bothered about is, what is the purpose, right? Because the purpose would define whether you need 2 people, whether you need 4, whether you need 6, whether you need 10, right? Like, say for example, there are certain places where there's a defined count, like say for example in a game, right? In a sports, in football, in cricket, or in a doubles tennis match, there would be a defined number as the size of the team, right? You cannot be more than that. However, yes, there is always a supporting team around them. Now, the same thing would also happen in case of an organization. While you would have the actual working team, there could also be a supporting team around them. So understanding the whole purpose is very important to first of all define the size of the team, because optimization finally is the key. Whether we are looking at size, whether we are looking at skill, or whether we are looking at scale, finally it is the right amount which serves the purpose, which could help the team actually achieve and approach the task at hand in a much more structured fashion. The second part is resources. Now, why is resources important? Here, resources could be not only looked as individuals, but it could also be autonomous resources. Like, say, for example, today in the age of artificial intelligence and all these bots, even they could act as autonomous team members. So let us not forget the role of autonomous members also in a team, because nowadays it's not only about human efficiency, it's also about technological efficiency, which can drive results faster, smarter. Now let's talk about skills. This is all about the complexity of the project or complexity of the task in hand. This complexity can be addressed by certain element of human skills and certain element of autonomous systems, like, say, for example, your technical tools, your generative AI tools, your AI bots, and so on and so forth. Now, the complexity should be the determinant of the skill. It's like the kind of complexity you would face if you had to train a bunch of swimmers into ice skating champions, vis-a-vis training cricketers into tennis players is pretty different. Second thing is also the duration. Often what happens is in long phased exercises, in long projects, you would always want a higher dependency of the human skill rather than the autonomous skill. For a very simple example, that how long can we go on interacting with a machine? We do like socializing, we do like someone else, and what that does is that it builds a very stronger collaboration for also future projects. So you also need to understand this, that whenever you're sorting for skills, and based on size, if you choose to say that okay, I'll pair a human with an autonomous bot, you may want to do that only for very short, crisp tasks, and not for long duration projects, or where the team needs to be performing for a longer time duration. So one of my Sage Arrow friends came back with a typical problem of attrition, and of course he was not unhappy that the bad guys were leaving, but he was of course unhappy that some of the performer guys were leaving, and how could he actually correct this, or he wanted me to basically investigate through using our psychometric tools to find out what was happening. So what I did was, I not only looked at those bunch of performers, I also asked him to give me a set of people who are staying back longer in the organization. And then once I measured them using a common inventory of tests, I could easily tell that the optimum performance probability scale was very tipped, which means the guys who were high performers were very high when it came to the productivity traits, when it came to the performance traits, but they were very low on their responsibility traits. So this was quickly addressed by correcting the hiring process. Even in your organization, if you find such a problem, you will need to actually go back and look at the scale first, because that is the right determinant of exactly creating and putting teams together. We can always access a multiplicity of tools today. Sometimes we can even create those tools for ourselves within the organization, but it would be useful if we can figure out which are the tools which are useful, which are purpose driven, which really serve and are just not fanciful to the idea of being an autonomous tool. Just like having a robot can be fanciful unless it really serves the purpose. Otherwise, you might rather go for a semi-autonomous or even a human partner. Now, why are we talking of this? So that will come out in the element of scale. So when we look at scale, we need to remember two things, that what is the scale of the outcome that is required in terms of both performance and in terms of collaboration. See, sometimes we do certain tasks and teams come together because there is a need for higher collaboration to ensure that not only the task is better, it also looks better to the intended party. Let me give you a very simple example. Marriage is all about private intentions, but the fact that a whole team comes together to ensure that the marriage is successful, other than of course the couple, is because the intention is not only for marriage, the intention is also to have fun and let the world know that you are getting married. So similarly, in certain roles, you may want to see or develop higher collaboration between teams. See, this is a good thing when you have a lot of sprint based or multiple projects to be executed, which could be of shorter or longer nature. The second part is where performance is key, where it is important to deliver faster. It is important to quickly wrap up and be very, very focused on the task approach. Then in those cases, what happens is it is better to pair a human with a bot rather than take another human, or probably even completely allow the bot to complete the task, because it is all about role optimization. And when we are trying to optimize roles, what happens is team members get very less time to basically collaborate, to spend time with each other, to know each other, right? So hence the scale could be determinant of that. Now, when you need to now do this on a constant basis, which you may want to do it every week, every weekend, then it becomes very, very important that you build it not for performance, where even if the quality dips in one of the days, it's not a crime, right? Because the purpose is not performance. Here the purpose is collaboration. Here the purpose is to bring the community together. The third purpose could also be learning, which is often ignored, that teams should not ignore the importance of learning in team dynamics, because that is another aspect, that in any process, in any project, any task that you execute, there has to be some learning and outcome coming out of it, purely because we really do not know the point of criticality in a scale. So this is where I wanted to talk about the point of criticality. Now what happens is that, or what I would call as the setting of benchmarks. Now if we look at both the size, the skill and the scale, all of the three items are basically to be driven by the concept of the optimum amount of energy, the optimum amount of performance, optimum amount of productivity, to ensure that you get the perfect result. Now this optimum is often a game of hits and misses. We know that water boils at 100 degrees, which means that's the optimum scale, that if you can take the temperature up to 100 degrees, the water will start boiling. And so does an ice melt or an object break at a certain amount of pressure, right? So it is exactly the point before that, which is the optimum amount of pressure that the object can hold, right? So similarly, teams would also have optimization, and that should be the key learning coming out of it, that what is the critical scale at which the team performs best, right? It's not that every team every time will achieve the top shots, but then if they can have a scale, they can always look forward to finding finer mistakes, to finding making finer corrections, and which could further lead them to greater success, higher productivity and smarter results. We can also think of scale as a lever of determining probability of performance. So which means that if we need a certain kind of performance, whether we need it for a short term or a long term, it will involve, of course, these three factors of what size of team do we not only put through, but what size of team can we afford to put through. The second, of course, as I said, is the skill, which is basically what sort of skills and at what level of skills becomes perfect for a team to achieve its key results. And the third thing is the scale itself, which is that how do I keep on determining at what scale do I want the performance to happen, so that I can ensure that both collaboration and performance is optimized. In teams, you will often notice that there's a particular need for people who feel that they have the same set of values, they enjoy a higher amount of collaboration, and hence always seek out that particular teammate, not just because they are friends, but actually because they share the same values is why they are friends. So once we understand this core, it is easier for us to not only pick the right team, but also put together the right team. Now, what comes in between this whole process? It is, of course, the existing culture of your organization or the culture of the team involved. See, teams are not individuals standing in silos. They are part of either the organization, or you have recently had them and put them together in a team. So they come with their baggage of understanding. They come with their own differences, their own knowledge, their own cognition levels. And this becomes very, very important to understand and address. Look, if we can look at your orientation, say for example, are you more relationship oriented, are you more performance oriented, which could be explained through this people task quadrant, that is the task more people oriented, is it to drive collaboration or is it to drive performance? And hence you could pick up people who display or deliver the particular personality traits as explained here, which is action driven or intellect driven or influence driven or social driven. I hope you have found it good, and I would be grateful if you can share your insights and let us know how you found this in the comments below. Do share it with friends and people whom you think could benefit from these insights. These are more practical compared to the standard motivational aspects of team need to have high collaboration, team need to have high cohesion, team need to have high trust, but you have to understand exactly how do you deliver those elements, and hence how you set the scale behind it. So as I explained earlier, do look at basically setting the scale, because the scale is what will deliver you the perfect results. With this, I thank you and look forward to seeing you in the next video. Do share and subscribe if you have liked the content, and I wish you a wonderful day ahead.